Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, I saved someone's life and the family hates me. Old guy swipes my shopping cart with his Prius, expects to trade vehicle insurance. Old Karen wants me to pay. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I saved someone's life and the family hates me. I knew a lady who was going through a divorce. I was her tech person when she had a home business and I was invited to her 40th birthday party. She wanted a new TV plus sound system hooked up. Needed my car because the TV would fit in it. We went together to pick up the TV, and while out, she went to do a little shopping for food, etc. During that moment, her ex saw us together. I am married and just helped this person. I hooked up her TV, the party happened, and I helped clean up at the end when her friends left. The ex heard from her friends that I stayed after the party ended. A few weeks later, she wanted a GPS setup for her car. It was a hot day and her house air conditioner stopped working. I went there and knocked on the door. She didn't answer. I heard the car running in the garage. Went back the door to look in the front window. The house is full of smoke. I opened the front door, which was not locked. Found her passed out on the couch. Picked her up and took her outside. She was breathing and coughing. I went back in and she had the car running, window down, to make the air conditioner of the car cool the house down by the internal access door to the garage. Instead, filling up the house with carbon monoxide, which almost killed her. Yes, I have seen more stupid things, but not deadly. I turned off the car and opened up all the windows and doors. She was crying outside because she almost died, and if she did, people would think she deliberately killed herself. Instead, it was a mistake. If I had arrived a few minutes later, she would have been dead. I comforted her, and at that moment the ex drove past on one of his stalking runs. Later, I saw him when he was picking up his kids from school. He called me a cheating prick, which was surprising because we got along before they broke up. He had already been spreading rumors to everyone that I was sleeping with her. Told his whole family, her family, eventually got to my family. I didn't do anything wrong, and when I told them all what really happened, nobody believed me. Everyone believes him that something was happening before they broke up. Then he was making up extra reasons to say she was with me. Oddly, my wife is the person who laughed it off. Because she doesn't believe I would ever cheat on her, especially with that woman. I don't actually believe that she was trying to cool the house with the car AC. Sounds totally made up on her part, because, come on, anyone would have to realize how ineffective that would be. Why not just try leaving the fridge open or something if she was that desperate to cool the house? Also a bad idea, but without the potential to die. I think she was actually trying to live herself. Hopefully you being there at the right time has given her an opportunity to rethink things and maybe realize she does want to be in this world. You did a good thing. Don't let the haters get you down. You know the truth and she knows the truth, and that's really all that matters. You might benefit from putting some distance between yourself and her in the meantime though. The truth usually comes out in the end. I'm sure it all feels really big right now, but it will die down over time if you leave it alone. Sounds to me like the ex cannot fathom why a man would be nice to a woman if he isn't sleeping with her, and that says quite a bit about his character. That's what I'd tell people if they continue to believe you're cheating. You call the police and fire department when a house is filled with carbon monoxide and someone nearly dies. I can't imagine why you didn't do this. Well, even I wouldn't know to do that because I never heard of carbon monoxide. I probably would know to contact the police that someone tried to kill themselves, but that's as far as I would know to do. She was trying to kill herself. Quite frankly, in my opinion, as long as your wife knows the real story and believes you, I wouldn't give a shit what anybody else thought. But I'm also fairly apathetic in general and have really never put much stock in other people's opinions or thoughts of me. You're a good dude. I hope her family eventually realizes that they could have lost her and come around to thanking you. Near-death moments are surprising common. I've had 3 instances where looking back I very well could have died, but because of the kindness of others around me I am still here today. As long as she's safe, you're safe, and everyone involved isn't at risk anymore. Screw what anyone else says about the situation. Because they truly don't know what happened, they weren't there, you were, and she's still here because of that. You two are the only people who can speak on the truth of the situation. People will try to drag others down because they feel like I should have been the one, when in reality if they had been, she'd be dead because they weren't around. You saved her life. That should be the only thing that matters here. I assume that your wife knew that you have been helping out. If you told her you were going over there, that is all the proof that the other people need. Old guy swipes my shopping cart with his Prius, expects to trade vehicle insurance. I'm still shaking my head over this. It happened several months ago. I was getting ready for a home project and had picked up some corrugated steel roofing, a load of lumber, and 4 bags of construction sand from the local big box home improvement store. The orange one. The lumber was over 12 feet long. Everything fit on one cart. My pickup truck was parked in the parking lot, and I planned to push the cart there to load it. Just like hundreds of other customers do. There is a high awning at the store exit, and after that there is parking lot. There is no pedestrian painted crosswalk. But this is California. Parking lots are pedestrian right-of-way. Anyway, I check both ways before pushing this heavy, long, and unwieldy load into the parking lot. I let the Jeep coming from my right go by. The Prius on my left is a long way away, so off I go. I didn't realize how fast the Prius was going. Almost 40 miles per hour. I had about 8 feet of lumber into the parking lot when he drove up on me. He swerved to miss, so he didn't hit me head on. But he did kiss the load of 4x8s with his right front quarter panel. The wood then laid a perfect crease all the way down the side of his shiny Prius, all the way back to his rear quarter panel. With 200 pounds of sand, another 200 or 300 pounds of wood, and maybe 100 pounds of steel, the cart didn't move. Heck, the wood wasn't even damaged. The driver stopped almost 30 feet away, put his car in park, and came to check damage. He was old. Look, I'll be 60 this year, but I guessed he was easily 20 years older. Skinny, and looking like dry jerky. But spry enough and alert. We asked if each other was okay. He checked the damage on his car, and out of habit, I took photos of the damage, his license plate, my cart, and the area. Then he came up and asked to trade vehicle insurance. I laughed in his face. My truck is parked way over there. Why would I give you insurance on it? He got upset and asked me how I was going to pay for his car. I pointed out that he technically hit a pedestrian in a pedestrian area, was going too fast, and saw me enter his path from 50 feet away. He had plenty of time to halt and let me cross. He was upset, then hit on the bright idea that maybe the store was at fault and liable for parking lot accidents, and said he was going to talk to the manager. After he left, I decided I wanted to stick around and see what happened. But I needed my stuff loaded. So I left my cart parked out of the way, and brought my truck under the awning, and started loading. The old guy and a manager came out, and once the manager understood what happened, she explained how the store was not liable. He talked about suing the store, and she shrugged and told him to go ahead. The company lawyers would take care of it. But since he said lawsuit, she couldn't talk anymore. And she left. He came back over to me and asked how was I going to make this right. I told him, nicely, that since I had no damage, I didn't need anything from him running into me. He said I ran into him. Really? Look at your front quarter panel. And that he was calling the cops. Okay, dude. You do that. I know something about the cops in this city. Unless there is a shootout, a lot of money, a lot of drugs, or a body, their response time can be measured in hours. Or never. So I went back and finished loading my truck. Then I got in and sat in the AC to cool off. Finally, I wrote my name on a paper and my telephone number. I gave it to the guy and told it to give it to the cops when they arrived. And then I left. About 5 hours later, a cop called and asked to trade information about the guy. Basically, driver's license info. They were still at the store. The guy sounded frustrated. So I read off the details of my license, and the cop read off the details of his license. No insurance info was traded. He just wanted to know who to sue. The cop emphasized the gentleman's birth date. That's when I learned he was 98 years old. Good on him for keeping his license. The cop emphasized this was a civil matter, and the old guy could sue. I said I understood and looked forward to it. And that's where we stand. I've received no court summons. No other action. My backyard goldfish pond is still in work. Yeah, I've lived in 2 states that have tried to pass laws with increased testing for seniors. Of course, these initiatives were put up because they killed someone. They got shot down. Of course, seniors vote in record numbers. In FL, your driver's license is good for 10 years, even for blue hairs. Other states I've lived in were all 5. I will never forget the story my history teacher told of when he went to get his license renewed. A senior citizen was redoing his driving test, the old-fashioned way, since he couldn't work a computer for the new test, and said that the merge sign meant spear. Which, I can see it looking like a spear, but what does that mean in the context of driving? Yes, that man's license was renewed. No, not good for him for keeping his license. He could have killed you. 100%. The correct action would be to ask him when he was going to file suit, so you could countersue for emotional trauma. That man is a danger to society. You handled it like a champ, but I wouldn't have been so nice. Somewhat surprised at the police response. Him hitting the cart you were pushing could be considered battery and thus a criminal, not civil offense. If he were pistol whipping me while also holding a brick of cocaine, the cops might have gotten involved. Our city has a handy self-reporting website where you can report crimes and generate an official police report for insurance purposes, without ever involving a busy policeman. If South Park has ever been right about anything, it is the notion that old people should never be allowed to drive. Actually, the more dangerous drivers are teenagers who, as some jurisdictions, can have a license at 16. Seniors tend to have more fender benders. As a just in case, I would contact the store, tell them this story, and ask that they either preserve the video or provide you a copy because of the potential lawsuit. Old Karen wants me to pay. This happened around April 2017. I'm 68F, was sitting in my F350 pickup in a mall parking lot. I parked my pickup so there was a concrete island on the passenger side, no parking spaces in front of me, and all the spaces were open on my side. I'm talking to a friend, and the next thing I know, an 80s pickup is headed to park, and it looked the driver was going to hit me, despite there being lots of open parking spaces. The male driver, around 75-ish, slightly corrects and his driver mirror hits my driver mirror. Fortunately, my mirror folded in, and when I hit the button it went right back out and the mirror was okay. The other driver rolls down his window and asks if my mirror is okay. I said it was, and I said no harm, no foul. He said he cracked his mirror. I thought all was good. He gets out of his truck and goes inside, and the female, also about 75-ish, gets out and is on her cell phone. No biggie. Ha! I finish talking to my friend, get out of my pickup, and am heading for the mall when the female says, "Well, aren't you going to pay for it?" I said, "Pay for what?" She says I broke the mirror. I tell her that her driver hit my mirror and I was parked well into the parking line, like right next to the concrete island on the passenger side, so no, I'm not paying. She tells me that it's my fault. Again, I tell her I'm not paying. She was still yelling at me when I went in the mall. This reminds me of the time I was rear-ended by an old drunk who mistook his gas pedal for the brakes. He was in an old Pontiac with an automatic transmission and an enormous brake pedal. I had been sitting at a red light in my pickup truck at night on a virtually deserted street for several minutes when he came out of nowhere, and he slammed into me, going nearly 50 miles per hour. His car was going so fast that he managed to get his car jammed under my truck all the way to his windshield. He got out of his car and staggered over to me, first trying to keep me from getting out to inspect the damage, and then he actually told me that I should pay him because his car was damaged worse than my truck. Ultimately, I was taken away in an ambulance, and he was arrested not for being drunk but for attacking the cop he was talking to about it. Well, that was in 2017, so I assume they didn't call the police that you hit and ran. I just can't understand why people who cause the issue expect to be compensated for their error. In 2021, I, 37F, was running errands with my husband. I was driving and he was in the passenger seat. We had just started to go from being at a red light when the lifted F-350 on the passenger side suddenly tried to get in my line. He folded my mirror in, tore off my hubcap, and left dents and rubber marks all over my passenger quarter panel and door. When I finally got him to stop, it was some 19-year-old punk who had the nerve to tell me it was all my fault because I had been on my phone. He wouldn't listen to the fact that no, I had not been on my phone, that in fact it had been in my cup holder, and kept saying I hit him. Mind you that right after he hit me, he drove off in front of me. Thank God no one was hurt. I hope you grabbed your phone and took a pic, and later reported that punk-ass kid. He did damage your car. Had a similar story about 10 years ago. Went out grocery shopping and parked, well behind the line, in a space with an open space in front because a shopping cart was in the way. I come out and there's some boomer ranting and raving about his damaged car to a cop. I realize his trunk is under the hood of my Jeep. As soon as he notices me, he starts screaming about how I drove over his little midlife crisis. The cop is about to go in on me when someone who just happened to see me park earlier comes over to tell him I was there first. The boomer asshole proceeded to spit on me. The cop fully changed his report to reflect the facts and charged him with filing a false claim. Obvious scam. I would have moved so they didn't retaliate further against my car. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.